So there's a pretty interesting story in the news. And so there's currently, I guess, a court case going on over Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. I guess that is still being challenged. And Trump, he actually went to Twitter to send out a tweet saying, now that the very expensive, unpopular, and unfair individual mandate provision has been terminated by us, many states in the U.S. are asking the Supreme Court that Obamacare itself be terminated so that it can be replaced with a far better and much less expensive alternative. Obamacare is a joke. Deductible is far too high and the overall cost is ridiculous. My administration has gone out of its way to manage Obamacare much better than the previous, but it is still no good. I will always protect people with pre-existing conditions. Always, always, always. So he's lying out of his ass here. Now, I guess the pre-existing conditions provision of Obamacare is insanely popular. So Obamacare consists of a lot of provisions, one of them being you can still be on your parents' insurance plan up until you are age 26. Another one, obviously, you can't be denied insurance. Like people would get denied insurance because they had some pre-existing condition, and then you can't even buy better health insurance that you're going to get by default, which is pretty much garbage. So it really sort of boxed a lot of people out, and it was really horrible, and people's lives were, forever ruined, essentially, because if you miss out on something for a while, health related, you're pretty much screwed. So when it comes to this, what I find is really hilarious. First of all, I want to be very clear. He's completely lying out of his ass. Doesn't care about people with pre-existing conditions. And so what the Trump administration is now arguing in the Supreme Court, they're literally asking them to completely throw out the Affordable Care Act, completely throw away the ACA and everything about it, all of the various provisions that exist with the ACA, all of it scrapped and thrown out. Medicaid expansion, out. Age 26, out. All of this stuff, pre-existing conditions, out. It says the administration on Thursday filed a legal brief to the Supreme Court asking that the ACA be invalidated, a move that would take away health insurance coverage for about 20 million people and make healthcare a chief issue a little more than 4 months out from the presidential election. The brief argues that because the law's requirement to have health insurance was upheld in court as a tax in 2012, and Congress repealed the financial penalty for violating that requirement in 2017, it is no longer a tax and therefore no longer constitutional. So this is where it starts to get really confusing, right? So if you have not already read about the Supreme Court case over Obamacare back in 2012, highly recommend just go look at the Wikipedia page. It's fascinating because there's different decisions on different areas. So one thing Obama wanted to do, because Medicaid is a mix of state and federal funds, what he wanted to do is basically strip all federal funding of Medicaid for a state that said, we're not going to accept a Medicaid expansion, because that's what a lot of Republican governors ended up doing, totally fucking their state over. And if you look at the lists of like the highest premium states, like most of them are going to be ones that actually declined the Medicaid expansion. But that got struck down by the Supreme Court. They said, no, you can't do that, Barry. So that got struck down. But they did leave the individual mandate in place because they said, hey, the federal government has the enumerated power, Congress has the enumerated power to lay and collect taxes, so therefore it's constitutional. They said it's a tax on people who don't have health insurance, because what is the individual mandate? The individual mandate, the purpose of it, and this is kind of the way the insurance works, was so anybody who didn't buy health insurance got fined. So if you have the fines coming in and then trying to force people into buying health insurance, the idea is having younger people who are probably the ones not signing up because they don't need it as much. You kind of put them into the system so that those young people paying the premiums can kind of help offset the older population that's, disproportionately using the health insurance. And so that's the idea of insurance in general, and why health insurance having these very diversified risk pools is so crucial. Because otherwise, what's hilarious about this is, in 2017, when the skinny repeal and all that stuff was going on, they kept talking about high risk pools, which meant that literal pools of people who are high risk. Like, they thought that was a good idea. the Republicans thought that it was a good idea for a health insurance policy to be completely occupied by people who are at high risk of using that insurance. That is literally the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. That is completely antithetical to the idea of insurance working, period. That's why you need diverse risk pools, okay? So that's a whole other thing. But what's really hilarious to me is the Republicans don't ever offer anything, and it's really funny. It's this Trump campaign on repealing and replacing Obamacare, though he has not presented his own alternative to the signature healthcare law during his tenure in the White House. An effort to repeal Obamacare failed in the Senate in 2017. So it's hilarious. These people all ran on repeal and replace Obamacare. Mitt Romney ran on it. Paul Ryan ran on it. And it failed epically to win anything at the time. But I don't know when the second part of that kicks in. Like, where does the replace part kick in? What are you replacing it with? Do you even have any ideas? And by the way, one other thing that I forgot to mention, actually, that I definitely want to remember to mention, when he says my administration has gone out of its way to manage Obamacare much better than previous, he's talking about a lot of power that he has via executive order to sort of control and manage. So, there were these cost-sharing subsidies that were given to health insurance companies to like offset the costs that come with insurance for people who are low income / high risk, and then that would help them offset. He started pulling those, and then all the insurance companies started pulling off of the exchanges. And everyone's like, "Whoa, what's going on? Why are all these, health insurance companies dipping off the exchanges?" Well, it's because he was removing the, subsidies that were in place. So he has a lot of that power via executive order to kind of fuck Obamacare in the ass, right? And so anytime you do these little bandages, you're going to leave the wiggle room for the next president to just kind of, pulverize it essentially. And that's why, John Boehner kind of talked about this, former Speaker of the House. He's basically like, once you get something like Medicare for All, and you can't really take that away because everyone has it, it's going to be set in stone. It's like a real, easy to, I always like to say, it's easy to rip off a Band-Aid. It's pretty tough to, reverse a surgery, right? So, that's the update on this Obamacare case and just some of the shenanigans that are going on with the Trump administration. But no, Trump has no real proposals. He doesn't know shit about healthcare. He doesn't know anything about healthcare. None of the Republicans care about healthcare. And honestly, this is one of the losing battles for them because I remember 2017 like it was yesterday when it came to the Obamacare stuff. All that would happen every day. Hey, look, the CBO comes out with new estimate. 17 million will lose health insurance if they repeal. It's like, you can't win that battle in the public eye. It's just not going to work. Only way you'd have to do it is like maybe have some soulless, incredibly undemocratic processes like the Senate, for example. It's kind of your only chance. But that is an update on the processes that are going down.